Aaron felt a strange weight pressing against his chest. His eyes opened slowly and light poured into his vision. It was not the light of his ship, not the flickering red of warning alarms, but something softer and golden. He tried to move, but his body felt heavy, like stone. His breath came in short gasps, and he wondered if he was still alive. The last thing he remembered was fire. His ship, the Resolute, had been caught in the jaws of an alien fleet. He had stood with his crew until the very end, fighting against impossible odds. He remembered rushing into smoke and metal to protect someone, though the memory was faint and broken. After that, nothing. Now he was lying on something smooth, a surface that felt alive beneath him. His hand touched it, and the material pulsed faintly like the skin of a great creature. He forced himself to sit up, and his eyes widened. The room was massive, taller than any hall he had ever seen, built of shining silver and crystal walls that glowed with gentle light. Strange banners hung from the pillars, each marked with patterns that seemed to shift when he stared at them. The air carried a sweet, unfamiliar fragrance, almost like flowers, yet sharper. And then he saw her. At the far end of the chamber stood a figure unlike any he had known. She was tall, almost twice his height, with a presence that seemed to command the air itself. Her skin shone faintly, as if starlight lived beneath its surface. Her eyes were luminous, golden like the light of distant suns. She wore a flowing robe of deep blue and silver, and on her brow rested a crown that glimmered with crystals. She stepped forward, and her voice carried across the hall, soft yet powerful. "You claimed me last night, human." Aaron blinked. His mind spun at her words. He struggled to stand, his legs weak, but he forced himself upright. "What are you talking about?" His voice was hoarse but steady. The Empress moved closer. Her steps were slow, deliberate, as if she walked not on the ground but above it. She lowered her gaze to him, and though her eyes were calm, there was something fierce behind them. "You placed your life before mine," she said. "In the fire and ruin of battle, you shielded me. My people witnessed it. My own heart witnessed it. By our law, by our bond, I belong to you as you belong to me." Aaron's breath caught in his throat. He shook his head, trying to make sense of her words. "I didn't know who you were. I was only protecting someone in danger." The Empress tilted her head slightly, studying him. "That is why it matters. A warrior who acts without seeking reward is the one most worthy of binding." He staggered back, pressing his hand against the glowing wall for support. "No, I'm just a soldier. I don't belong here. I don't even know where here is." The Empress raised her hand, and a ripple of energy spread across the room. From the shadows of the chamber, other figures appeared. Guards in shining armor, their faces hidden behind helmets, stood at the edges, watching him with unreadable eyes. One of them stepped forward, but the Empress raised her palm, and he stopped immediately. "You are within the heart of my vessel," she said. "The palace ship Eternus. You stand in the chamber of vows. Whether you wish it or not, the bond has been made." Aaron felt a wave of frustration rise in him. "I never agreed to this. I don't understand your customs. I don't even know your name." She paused for a moment, as though the thought had only now occurred to her. Then she inclined her head slightly, a gesture of formality. "I am Silora, Empress of the Luthari Dominion, and you, human soldier, are now the one who has claimed me." The chamber fell silent after her words. The guards did not move, though he could feel the weight of their stares. Aaron's heart pounded. He wanted to deny it, to turn away, but something in her voice struck him deeply. She was not mocking him nor forcing him. She spoke as though this truth was unshakable, as though the universe itself had decided. Still, he clenched his fists. "I didn't ask for this. I don't want power. I only wanted to keep my crew safe." Silora's golden eyes softened just slightly. For the first time, she looked less like an untouchable ruler, and more like someone searching for an answer. "And yet they are gone. Your ship is broken. Your people are scattered. But you live. Do you not see the hand of fate in this?" The words struck him harder than he expected. He remembered the screams, the fire, the sound of tearing metal. His crew, his friends. He had failed them. Yet somehow he had survived. "Why him? Why now?" He shook his head, refusing to let grief overtake him. "If what you say is true, then your people won't accept me. I'm nothing but an outsider to them." At that, Silora gave a small, almost amused smile. "You are correct. They will hate you. They will doubt you. Many already wish you gone. That is why this bond will be tested. That is why your presence here is dangerous. And yet that is why it matters." Her words left him speechless. He looked around the vast hall, at the strange banners, at the watching guards. He was standing at the center of something far larger than himself. A battle had brought him here, but now he stood on the edge of an empire. Aaron felt his knees weaken, and he sank back onto the smooth floor. His thoughts swirled, and he whispered almost to himself, "What happens now?" Salora's gaze never left him. She moved closer, and her robe brushed the ground like flowing water. She stopped only a few steps away, towering above him. "Now, human, you learn what it means to walk beside an empress. And perhaps my people will learn what it means to walk beside humanity." The silence that followed was heavy, but not cold. Aaron met her eyes, and for the first time he saw not only power but also a strange, distant hope. And though he did not yet understand, he felt the weight of destiny pressing on his shoulders. Aaron's steps echoed as two guards led him down a shining corridor. The walls of the alien ship pulsed faintly with soft light, as if the vessel itself was alive. He walked slowly, his legs still weak from the battle, but his eyes never stopped moving. Everything was unfamiliar yet strangely elegant. He felt like a stranger who had stepped into the halls of gods. Behind him, the words of Empress Salora still burned in his mind. She had spoken of a bond, a law, a fate he had not chosen. It felt unreal, yet the weight of it pressed down on him with every breath. One of the guards, taller than Aaron by a full head, glanced at him from behind a gleaming helmet. "You should be proud," the guard said in a low, almost grudging tone. "No other being has ever stood so close to our Empress. But do not mistake this as honor. You will be judged." Aaron kept walking, his voice calm but steady. "I didn't ask for any of this. I only did what I thought was right." The guard gave no answer. Instead, the corridor opened into a vast hall. Rows of alien nobles filled the chamber, their robes shimmering like woven starlight. They turned as one to face him, their gazes sharp and heavy. At the far end, Salora sat upon a throne that seemed carved from crystal and fire, her golden eyes fixed on him. The guards pushed him gently forward. Aaron walked toward the throne, each step echoing in the silent chamber. He felt every eye upon him, judging, measuring. His heart pounded, but he held his head high. Salora spoke, her voice clear and steady. "This is Aaron, the human who risked his life to shield me in battle. By the law of the binding, his fate is now tied to mine." A wave of murmurs swept across the hall. One noble, robed in red, stepped forward. His voice carried disdain. "A human? Empress, forgive me, but this cannot stand. He is fragile, untested, a creature of a lesser world. To bind with him is to insult the honor of your throne." Others nodded, their voices rising. "He is weak. He will bring ruin. This is against tradition." Aaron clenched his fists, heat rising in his chest. He had heard such words before on Earth when others doubted him. But here the doubt was sharper, colder, from beings who looked at him as though he were nothing more than dust. Before he could speak, Salora raised her hand. The chamber fell silent. Her golden eyes scanned the crowd. "You question his worth because he is human. Yet none of you shielded me when the fire rained down. None of you stood between me and death. He did. That is why the bond is his." Her words carried such strength that the nobles fell into silence, though their eyes still burned with anger. Salora then turned her gaze upon Aaron. "But even truth must be proven. If he is to walk beside me, let him be tested. Let him face the trials, so all may see what a human is made of." Aaron felt a cold shiver pass through him. Trials. He had no idea what that meant, but the way the nobles reacted told him enough. This was no ceremony. This was a challenge. One of the nobles sneered, his voice sharp. "Yes, let the human face the trials. If he fails, the bond ends and the Empress is freed of this insult." The chamber filled with nods and murmurs of agreement. Aaron looked at Salora. Her gaze was steady, not cruel, not mocking. Instead, he saw something else there. A test, yes, but also a kind of trust. He took a slow breath and spoke clearly. "If this is what it takes, then I'll face your trials. But know this, I don't do it for your approval. I do it because I will not turn away from what I started." A flicker of surprise crossed Salora's face, though she hid it quickly. She gave a small nod. "So be it. Prepare him for the first trial." The guards stepped forward again. Aaron was led out of the hall and into another chamber. This one was darker, the walls lined with glowing symbols. The air was heavy, filled with energy that made his skin prickle. At the center was a wide circular arena. A voice rang out from unseen speakers, deep and resonant. "First trial. test of endurance. The floor shifted and obstacles rose from the ground. Pillars, walls, moving platforms. Aaron realized this was no simple arena. It was alive, shifting constantly, designed to break anyone who entered. The guards pushed him gently forward. He stepped into the arena. The moment his foot touched the surface, the ground began to tremble. The platforms moved, walls shifted, and a sharp wind roared across the chamber. Aaron's heart raced. He had no weapons, no armor, only his body. But he remembered his training. He remembered running across burning decks, climbing through wreckage, surviving against odds. He gritted his teeth and moved. He leapt to the first platform, rolling as it tilted under his weight. He scrambled across shifting ground, dodging swinging barriers that threatened to throw him into the abyss below. His lungs burned, his muscles ached, but he pushed forward. From above, nobles and guards watched. Many expected him to fall quickly. Yet as the minutes passed, a murmur of surprise spread. The human did not stop. He slipped, stumbled, but always rose again. His movements were not graceful, but they were stubborn. Aaron reached the final platform, his body trembling, sweat dripping from his brow. He fell to his knees, gasping, but he had made it. The arena fell silent. Then slowly applause began, not from the nobles, but from the guards. Their armored hands struck together in respect. The nobles looked displeased, but even they could not deny what they had seen. Selora rose from her seat above the arena. Her golden eyes shone as she spoke. He has endured. He has passed the first trial. Aaron looked up at her, his chest heaving. For the first time, he saw something new in her gaze. Not just power, not just command, but a spark of curiosity. As the guards helped him out of the arena, he whispered to himself, "One trial down. Whatever comes next, I'll face it." And though doubt still lingered in his heart, a small flame of determination had been lit. He was no longer just a survivor. He was becoming something more. The palace ship Eternus was alive with whispers. News of the human's survival spread quickly among the nobles and soldiers. Many still doubted him, but some could not deny the stubborn strength he had shown in the first trial. Aaron knew little of their language or culture, yet he understood their stares. Some looked at him with anger, others with curiosity, but few with respect. He walked through the endless shining halls with 2 guards at his side, his body sore from the test of endurance. He wanted rest, but he knew more was coming. Selora had said there would be trials, and the nobles would not stop until they were convinced of his failure. The next chamber was unlike the first. Where the test of endurance had been full of noise and motion, this place was quiet. The walls were lined with crystal panels that glowed faintly, casting patterns of light across the floor. At the center stood a tall structure made of shifting blocks glowing with strange symbols. Selora was there, seated upon a raised platform. She watched him with calm golden eyes as the guards led him forward. "The second trial," she said, her voice steady. "Test of mind. Our ancestors built these puzzles to measure wisdom and insight. Many warriors failed here, for strength alone is nothing without thought." Aaron stared at the shifting structure. Blocks moved slowly, rearranging themselves into patterns. The glowing symbols changed with each motion, forming lines and shapes he did not understand. A noble in silver robes stepped forward, his voice sharp. "He cannot solve this. He does not even know our language. Let this farce end here." Aaron ignored the noble's words. He stepped closer to the puzzle, running his fingers across the cool surface of the blocks. The symbols pulsed faintly at his touch. He frowned. It reminded him of old memory games he had played as a child, where patterns had to be matched and pieces connected. He studied the movement of the blocks carefully. They did not shift randomly. Each change followed a rhythm, almost like music. His heart quickened as he realized what he was seeing. "This isn't about language," he murmured to himself. "It's about patterns." He began to move the blocks following the rhythm. At first, the pieces resisted, sliding back into place when arranged incorrectly. But as he adjusted them carefully, the symbols began to align, forming a glowing circle. The nobles leaned forward, their disbelief growing. The human was solving what even many of their own failed to master. Minutes turned into an hour. Sweat gathered on Aaron's forehead as he worked, moving block after block, his mind racing. He thought of the battlefield, of broken machines he had once repaired under fire. He remembered how he had survived by thinking quickly, by finding solutions no one else saw. Finally, with one last motion, the blocks locked into place. The entire structure glowed and the chamber filled with a soft hum. The puzzle had been solved. For a moment, silence ruled the hall. Then Salora stood. Her golden eyes glimmered with pride, though her expression remained calm. "He has passed the second trial," she said. A wave of shock swept through the nobles. Some whispered angrily. Others stared at Aaron with new curiosity. The noble in silver robes looked furious, but he said nothing. Aaron stepped back, breathing hard. His hands trembled, but he managed a faint smile. He had not expected to win, but he had trusted his instincts and it had worked. Yet he knew there was more. The trials were not over. That night he was given a chamber to rest in. The room was strange, with walls that pulsed faintly like the veins of a living creature. The bed was soft, though it felt more like water than cloth. Aaron lay there, staring at the ceiling. His thoughts drifted to Salora. The Empress was unlike anyone he had ever met. She was powerful, commanding, and yet there was something in her gaze when she looked at him. Not weakness, not pity, but a quiet question. Why had she trusted him? Why had she defended him before the nobles? He did not understand it, but he knew one thing. He could not fail. Not only for himself, but because something told him Salora's future was tied to his own. The next day he was brought to a different chamber. This one was wide and dark, lit only by torches of blue fire. Strange statues lined the walls, shaped like warriors of old. At the center of the floor was a circle drawn in glowing lines. Salora's voice rang out. "The third trial. Test of spirit," Aaron frowned. "Spirit?" She nodded. "This is not about strength or wit. It is about the will to stand when all else falls. You will face illusions that draw from your mind. You must endure them without breaking." Aaron stepped into the circle. The moment his foot touched the glowing line, the world shifted. He was no longer in the chamber. He was back on the Resolute. Alarms blared, smoke filled the air, and the ship shook as explosions ripped through the hull. He stumbled forward, his chest tightening. Voices cried out around him. "Aaron, help us!" He turned and saw his crew, faces pale with fear, reaching for him. He ran toward them, but every step pushed them farther away. Flames rose higher. The deck cracked, and one by one they vanished into the fire. Aaron fell to his knees, his heart breaking. "No, I tried to save you." A shadow formed before him, tall and cruel, its eyes glowing red. "You failed them," it whispered. "You will fail her too." The words cut deep, but Aaron clenched his fists. He forced himself to rise, shaking his head. "No, I didn't save them all, but I saved who I could. I saved her. I'll keep fighting. I won't stop." The shadow loomed closer, but he stood tall, refusing to bow. Slowly the fire began to fade. The smoke cleared, the voices silenced. When he opened his eyes again, he was back in the chamber. He stood in the circle, breathing hard, his body trembling, but his spirit unbroken. The nobles whispered in awe. Salora leaned forward, her golden eyes shining brighter than before. "He has endured the trial of spirit," she declared. Aaron looked at her, his chest still heaving. In her gaze, he saw not only approval, but something deeper. A bond growing stronger, forged not by law, but by choice. He stepped out of the circle, his body exhausted, but his heart burning with determination. Whatever the next trial was, he would face it. Not just for survival, but for the strange connection that tied his fate to the Empress and her people. And as the nobles argued among themselves, Salora whispered softly to herself, "Perhaps humanity is more than we ever believed." The palace ship Eternus drifted through the stars like a jewel of fire and crystal. Inside its endless halls, the nobles still whispered about the human who had survived the trials. Some admired his spirit, but many saw him as a threat. To them, his victories insulted their traditions. Aaron walked through the halls with quiet steps. His body was tired, but his mind was restless. The trials had left him scarred inside and out. Yet he felt something changing within himself. Each challenge had tested not only his strength but also his heart, and with each victory he felt more certain of his place beside Salora. Still, he knew the nobles' hatred had not ended. Their eyes followed him like shadows. Some spat curses in their tongue when he passed, though he did not understand the words. Others simply turned away, unwilling to accept that a human could stand where none of them had. Salora met with him that evening in her private chamber. The room glowed with soft golden light, and the ceiling was open to the stars. She stood beside a wide window, her robe flowing around her like the night sky. "You have done more than I expected," she said, her voice calm. Few believed you would pass even one trial, yet you have passed 3. You have earned their silence, if not their respect. Aaron nodded. But they still don't trust me. I can feel it every time I walk through those halls. Solora's golden eyes softened. Trust is not given quickly among my people. We are proud, too proud at times. They see you as different, and what is different is feared. But your strength has begun to plant seeds in their hearts. Even fear cannot deny truth. Aaron looked at her, searching her face. And you? Do you trust me? For a moment, Solora did not answer. Her gaze turned to the stars beyond the window. I trust what I see, and what I see is a human who refuses to fall, even when everything is against him. That is a rare quality, even among my own. Her words warmed him, though he said nothing more. He only stood beside her in silence, gazing out at the endless night. But beyond the calm of that chamber, danger brewed. In the depths of the palace ship, a group of nobles gathered in secret. They sat around a table carved of black stone, their faces hidden in shadow. The Empress is blinded by this human, one hissed. She risks everything for a creature that does not belong among us. He must be removed, another said. The bond cannot be undone, but the human can be erased. Once he is gone, her rule will return to order. They agreed with cold voices. A plan was formed, not only to kill Aaron, but also to weaken Solora's throne. Their ambition burned hotter than their loyalty. The next day, Aaron was walking through a quiet corridor when he felt a strange unease. The hall was empty, too empty. The lights dimmed suddenly, and the walls shifted to close off his path. From the shadows, figures emerged, nobles in armor, their blades glowing faintly. One stepped forward, his voice sharp and filled with contempt. Human, your time ends here. You do not belong among us. Your victories shame our people, and we will not allow it. Aaron's heart pounded, but he did not back away. He raised his fists, though he had no weapon. So this is what honor looks like to you? Attacking me in the dark? The noble sneered and lunged. Aaron dodged, rolling to the side. He grabbed a loose piece of metal from the wall, using it as a makeshift staff. The clash began. The nobles fought with skill, their movements sharp and fast. Aaron was slower, weaker, but he fought with determination. He struck low, used the walls, ducked beneath their swings. Every moment was survival, every breath a battle. One blade grazed his arm, burning his skin. He cried out but refused to fall. He swung the staff with all his strength, knocking one attacker to the ground. The others pressed harder. Just when his strength began to fade, the sound of boots thundered down the hall. Solora's guards arrived, blades drawn. The attackers tried to flee, but the guards surrounded them. The hall filled with the clash of steel and cries of anger. Solora herself appeared, her golden eyes blazing with fury. Enough! Her voice shook the walls. The attackers froze, trembling under her gaze. She stepped forward, her robe sweeping across the floor like fire. You dare raise your hands against the one bound to me? You dare betray your empress? The nobles fell to their knees, but their silence betrayed no regret. Solora's eyes narrowed. She turned to Aaron, who stood breathing heavily, blood on his arm but fire still in his eyes. You fought them alone, she said softly. Aaron straightened, gripping the broken staff. I didn't have a choice. They would have killed me. And yet you did not fall, she replied. She turned to the guards. Take them to the chamber of judgment. Their betrayal will not go unpunished. The traitors were dragged away, but their eyes burned with hatred even as they were taken. Later, in the quiet of her chamber, Solora faced Aaron again. She stood close, her expression softer than he had ever seen. You have proven more than strength. You have shown loyalty. Even in the face of betrayal, you stood firm. That is what makes you worthy. Aaron shook his head. I don't know if I'm worthy. I just know I couldn't let them win. Not like that. Solora's golden eyes met his, steady and unwavering. Worth is not found in perfection, human. It is found in choice. And you have chosen to stand when others would fall. That is why you are different. For the first time, Aaron felt something shift in his heart. The bond was no longer only law or fate. It was trust, fragile but real. But beyond the chamber walls, the nobles' anger only grew. The betrayal had failed, but their hatred had not ended. The empire trembled at the edge of division, and both Aaron and Solora knew the final test was yet to come. The trials had tested his body, his mind, and his spirit. But now the greatest trial would be loyalty itself, not only his loyalty to Solora, but her loyalty to him against her entire court. And as Aaron stood beneath the golden gaze of the Empress, he understood that the storm was only beginning. The palace ship floated in silent space after the storm of battle. Its golden walls still shook with the memory of fire and betrayal, but now the air was calmer. Guards marched in order, repairing what was broken. The court spoke in whispers about what had just taken place. The human named Aaron had stood beside the Empress when her own people tried to overthrow her. He had fought not for glory, not for wealth, but because he chose to protect her. Aaron stood at the grand balcony of the palace ship, looking down at the endless stars. His body ached from wounds, but he remained steady. He thought of Earth, of the crew he had lost, of the life that felt far away now. He did not know if he could ever return, but he also did not know if he belonged here among the shining towers of Celora's empire. Celora approached quietly. Her golden robe flowed around her, her crown dim but proud. She stood beside him, her voice calm. "You saved me when even my own blood turned against me," she said. "Your heart has shown me something my people have forgotten. You are not of us, yet you fought as though our fate was your own." Aaron looked at her. Her luminous eyes carried both strength and weariness. He did not answer at once. His thoughts were heavy. "I only did what I thought was right," he said at last. "When danger comes, you stand with those who trust you. That is what I was taught on Earth." Celora studied him for a long moment. The stars reflected in her gaze. "My people saw loyalty as a tool," she said. "They forgot it is a bond of spirit. They thought honor was measured only in strength. But you showed that honor is also in kindness. That is why I believe you are meant to stand with me, not below me, as an equal." Her words surprised Aaron. He had expected thanks, perhaps respect, but not this. "Equal to an empress?" He shook his head slightly. "I am only human," he said. "I do not know your laws. I do not know your customs. I have nothing but my will." "And that will is greater than the power of many fleets," Celora answered. "Do not think small of yourself, Aaron. You changed me. You changed this court. You showed us that humanity is not weak. It carries something rare, something we must not ignore." At that moment, members of the court entered the hall. They bowed low, their expressions a mix of respect and uncertainty. One elder spoke. "Empress, the council has spoken. They cannot deny the deeds of this human. If you claim him, then we accept. But know this choice will change the empire forever." Celora turned to Aaron. Her voice was steady, but her eyes searched his. "They would accept you as my partner, as one who rules beside me. But the choice is yours. Do you wish to return to your home world? Or will you stay here to guide a people who once saw you as nothing more than an outsider?" The hall grew silent. Every alien eye fixed on Aaron. He felt the weight of history pressing down on him. He thought of Earth again. He imagined walking through the streets of his city, hearing the laughter of his people. He missed it. But he also knew that if he returned, he would forever wonder what he left behind. He looked at Celora, who had risked her throne to stand by him, who had trusted him even when her advisors doubted. He remembered how she whispered to him when he first awoke, telling him he had claimed her without even knowing it. He drew a deep breath. "I cannot walk away," he said. "If I leave, I abandon everything we fought for. I may not be one of your people, but I know I can help. If you want me here, then I will stay. Not as a servant, but as your partner, as a bridge between my kind and yours." Celora's face softened, and for a brief moment, the Empress looked less like a ruler and more like a woman relieved of her loneliness. She stepped closer and placed her hand upon his shoulder. "Then so it shall be," she whispered. "From this day you are no longer only human. You are my chosen. You are the one who claimed me, and together we will claim the future." The court bowed. The air filled with the sound of voices pledging loyalty. Word spread through the palace ship, then across the empire. The tale of the human who became the protector of the Empress grew with every retelling. Days passed and the empire began to change. Celora announced reforms inspired by Aaron's words. She urged her people to see loyalty as trust, not chains. She encouraged them to value creativity and empathy alongside strength. Many resisted, but many more listened. For they had seen what Aaron had done when no one else stood firm. Aaron learned the language of the empire. He trained in their traditions, but he also taught them about Earth. He shared stories of human endurance, of how his people rose from weakness to reach the stars. Some laughed at first, but others began to respect this simple truth. Humanity had no great fleets, no ancient empires, yet they never gave up. That spirit was something even the proudest alien could not dismiss. In quiet moments, Aaron and Celora would stand on the balcony together. watching the stars. She would speak of her burdens and he would listen. He would share his fears and she would give him strength. Their bond grew not from ritual but from choice. One evening, as the twin suns of a distant system rose, Salora whispered again, her voice soft against the golden light. You claimed me not with power but with trust, and I claimed you not with law but with faith. Together we will guide both our peoples. Together we will not let the stars forget what it means to be human. Aaron looked at her and nodded. The journey ahead would not be easy, but he no longer doubted his place. Humanity was small, but in this vast empire its spirit had found a voice. And so the story of Aaron, the human who stood beside the alien empress, became more than legend. It became a beacon for all who dreamed of unity, a reminder that even in the coldest void, the light of one heart could change the fate of many.